Jeffrey Epstein is probably the most known person on the planet right now, but also shrouded in mystery at the same time. This is my very first analysis on this guy so you can know who he really was.
Before we get into the deep stuff, let's give some basics or some things I want to do inquire from the others. Walk me through the Santa Fe Institute. What was it about the time of the math? And this was in the late 90s. Why, when you're at the top of your game on Wall Street, do you decide to finance, which was at the time, or endow, or become the donor or sponsor, however you want to say it, for what was considered the most cutting edge group of mathematicians in the world? Action.
So Santa Fe Institute in the late 80s, early 90s, I was interested, I was on the board of Rockefeller.
So as you can see, they went straight to the 90s. He barely talks about his past before that. So the first question is, who is Jeffrey Epstein? Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York on January 28, 1953, he was of Jewish descent. His mother was a school aide but primarily a homemaker, while his father worked as a groundskeeper and gardener for the City Department of Parks and Recreation. It was a very classic family structure. The family lived in Seagate, a gated community in the Coney Island section of Brooklyn. He has a brother, Mark Epstein. Epstein attended public schools and was described as quiet and nerdy. A talented musician, he began playing piano at the National Music Camp at the Interlochen Center of the Arts at the age of 5. He graduated in 1969 from Lafayette High School at only 16 years old after skipping 2 grades. Epstein then attended advanced math classes at Cooper Union, a private college in Manhattan, before transferring in 1971 to the current Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University. There, he studied math and physics, but left in 1974 without a degree. This background strongly suggests he was a very rational and logical person. There's a crucial detail he doesn't talk about in this interview. He taught math and physics at the elite Dalton School in the mid-70s despite his complete lack of credentials. More disturbingly, according to a former student, he already displayed inappropriate behavior toward female students at the time. Epstein reportedly even showed up at student parties. So it was more than convenient for him to not talk about any of this in this interview. What is even more interesting about the information I gathered so far is that no wife or girlfriends are mentioned in his early biography. In fact, he remained unmarried until his death. The apparent lack of conventional intimacy does not excuse his crimes, but it may help explain his unusual and repulsive profile. His long-term associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, was exactly that, an associate, and apparently nothing more, despite their 25-year friendship, if we can call it that. His education and interest in mathematics and physics gave him an almost unfair advantage that I will elaborate later. Although Epstein was eventually fired from Dalton for poor performance, his mathematical ability helped him forge a connection to Wall Street. The father of one of his students put him in touch with a senior partner at the investment bank, Bear Stearns. After becoming a partner there within 4 years, he launched his own firm, J. Epstein & Co. in 1982. His company managed the assets of extremely wealthy clients worth more than $1 billion at the time. This alone explains his ties to the top 1%, the wealthiest of the wealthy. With the instant success of his company, Epstein was able to purchase a mansion in Florida, a ranch in New Mexico, and what was then the largest private home in New York. His wealth allowed him to socialize effortlessly with celebrities, artists, politicians, and business leaders. So yeah, let's keep going.
So that starts Rockefeller University, formed by John D. Rockefeller to sort of give back to the community. It's east side of Manhattan, except it was old. It was sort of old-fashioned. They were talking about medicine, and medicine by itself was again subject to the ideas of science. They were trying to use science to find cures for disease. And I said, no, we need to do something different. We need to start interdisciplinary work. In most...
How did a schmuck like you get on the board of Rockefeller? What year was that?
I don't remember. Late, I think 89 and 91.
So that's one of the most prestigious research places in the world, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how did a guy like you get on the board of a blue blood, internationally known, hard research, Nobel Prize winners all over the place? How do they pick a guy like you, a trader from, or basically some guy from Bear Stearns?
Let's pause here for a moment to recognize the PR stunt at play. It is obvious that Epstein was promoting what he perceived as the best version of himself by highlighting his ties to the major figures in the New York business world. During their exchange, Steve Bannon asked him what it was like to be picked by the Rockefellers, a blue blood family. The term blue blood is a reference to royalty. The concept likely originates from the medieval Spanish phrase sangre azul. Sangre means blood, azul blue in Spanish, attributed to the powerful families of Castile. According to HistoryExtra.com, as part of their claim to pure Gothic descent, these families asserted they had never intermarried with other races, pointing their pale skin which made the blueness of their veins visible. By using this term, Bannon intentionally positioned Epstein as a man intimately connected to a family with generations of international prestige. We must not forget the context of this interview. It was filmed around 2019, just a year after the Miami Herald published a series of investigative reports strongly suggesting that wealthy and powerful individuals were involved in Epstein's illegal activities. Only a week after those reports surfaced, Epstein reached a last-minute settlement with attorney Bradley Edwards, who represented several women, alleging that Epstein had abused them when they were minors. Had this case continued, they would have been the first women to testify against him in court. Essentially, his reputation was tarnished, and in my opinion, he was desperately trying to fix it however he could. One final note. Several media outlets have reported that Epstein greatly exaggerated his ties to the Rockefellers. While he cultivated connections within their network, primarily by leveraging his wealth to gain access to institutions they established, such as the Trilateral Commission and Rockefeller University, he never actually managed the family's money. So apparently, he's lying. I'll let you decide. You also have to note that Epstein died the very same year. I don't know if it was a couple of days after the interview or a couple of months, but he died on August 10, 2019. His body was found in a prison cell. He was awaiting his trial on sex trafficking charges.
Good question. So I was asked to be on the board of Rockefeller, and I think it was, I was on the board of Rockefeller. There was a money manager who said Rockefeller needs someone with financial expertise because the university is growing. But places like Rockefeller needed someone to say, look, we're entering a different world where numbers and the numbers of companies, portfolio management was going to be balanced, it was going to be statistical. Jeffrey, could you come on the board? Potentially sit on the finance committee, Nancy Kissinger and a bunch of other people. And David Rockefeller and I got along very well. He was this unbelievable human being. Respectful to everyone. He introduced his driver as his colleague, not his driver. He would never say, this is my driver. He said, it's my colleague.
Steve Bannon did not need to continue promoting the best side of Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein took care of that himself. He doubled down by insisting on his own importance within the Rockefeller sphere, clearly positioning himself as a member of the Big Boys Club. He mentions his personal connection to David Rockefeller, one of John D. Rockefeller's grandsons. He engages in a subtle humble brag by stating that David Rockefeller considered his own driver to be his colleague. This simple sentence is telling. It shows that Epstein is hyper-aware of hierarchies and power dynamics. In his narrative, he positions himself as important enough to be a member of the board looking down on those who don't fit that status. I'll let you decide what he really thought of David Rockefeller's driver when they actually met. I previously mentioned that his mathematical background gave him an unfair advantage. Regardless of how we view this man, from a career standpoint, he weaponized a skill set most people have no interest in developing and used it to amass a fortune. There was an obvious desperate search for validation from the rich and famous, yet he managed to infiltrate their inner circles because this ability opened doors for him. And he did it all without a college degree. In case you were wondering about the scale of his financial reach, Forbes estimated his net worth to be $600 million. He used his intellect as a master key to enter rooms usually reserved for those with the highest credentials, proving that his logical persona was a calculated tool for social climbing. This interview wasn't a confession, it was a final calculated performance.
And David started to explain to me world politics. So David would say, Jeffrey, money is going to be sort of the most important things. People don't understand money. You seem to have this knack for money.
If you want to see more breakdowns of how Epstein weaponized his intellect to manipulate his way into the world's most exclusive circles, let me know in the comments.